Men of Reddit, what's the most creepiest thing a woman has ever done to you? Probably not as exciting as most here, but still super freaking weird. I was staying at my friend's house, sleeping in his guest room. Friend is at work, his girlfriend is at home. One thing about this room is that it has a very heavy door that has to be held open by something super heavy or else it slams shut. Well, I sleep with the door closed. I wake up in the morning, and as I do every morning, I laid there for a bit longer before actually getting out of bed. Well, this time all of a sudden I see the door open. The light is still off, but the hallway light being on means I can see if someone's standing in the doorway. I have my eyes kind of open, and I can see that she's just standing there in the doorway, staring at me. I didn't move. I wanted to see WTF would happen because this was thoroughly freaking me out. She just stood there for at least 10 minutes. Didn't look away, didn't walk around the room. I was laying at a weird angle where I could see her perfectly. She could see me, but she couldn't see that my eyes were half open. I thought she may have been in there to grab something because there's a bunch of stuff in the closet, clothes and such. Nope. 10 minutes I waited for her to do something or to walk out. Finally I flinched and feigned waking up, and I heard her run out and the door slam. I got up, went into the kitchen, and she was as bubbly as could be, acting like nothing happened. Acting like she didn't just spend 10 minutes watching me sleep. Is your buddy's GF a freaking cat? Had a cat do the exact same thing for years. For whatever reason the bubbly part escapes me. I had an ex-girlfriend stalk me for 5 years. I had a restraining order against her that included my grandparents. She had been bothering them and my parents, but I didn't think to include my sister because she lived in a different city. This woman stalked my sister and ended up approaching her at a music festival. She was wearing, this is so insane, one of those hats that has fake dreadlocks attached to it, and she was trying to pretend to be a stranger and get information from my sister. Now, keep in mind 1. She was white as frick. 2. That was the only thing she did to disguise herself. And 3. My sister frickin' knew her already. It would be hilarious if not for the years of harassment and inconvenience she caused me. Every time I would move, she would send me something in the mail to let me know she had my address. One time it was a box with a flannel shirt, a half-empty bottle of cologne, a broken toy axe, a bundle of pubic hair, and an 11-page letter written in crayon. Frick, she was crazy. What happened to her? I'm not sure. She finally stopped stalking me once I got married. Met a girl at a bar and we ended up back at her place. We had sex and fell asleep. She seemed normal all night, and I saw no red flags at all. I definitely would have dated her again until she went crazy. I woke up around 5 AM and started getting dressed to leave. I had to get home and get ready for work. She woke up while I was dressing and totally freaked out. She was screaming angrily, "You can't leave." I explained I needed to go to work and that I'd call her later. She was having none of that. Then she attacked. I literally had to physically fight my way out of her apartment with a few scratches on my arm for souvenirs. I have no idea what her deal was, and I never went back to the bar I met her in. Sounds like some avoidant attachment issues to the maximum. Yep. I'm ashamed to admit I'm like this too, and behaved in a similar way recently. Except in my case, it was someone I dated when we lived in the same town and now usually sleep with whenever I see him. We've known each other for a decade. Over the holidays we reconnected, went out to dinner, then went to a hotel and had sex. Afterwards I was so happy to cuddle with him. I was feeling so touch-starved. I had a very rough year, and it felt so good to be with someone I can be vulnerable with and feel safe sleeping next to. I got up to use the restroom and saw him reach for his out of the corner of my eye. I came back and wrapped myself around him. He said he has to leave shortly cause his parents get up at 4:30 AM. I lost it. I had a panic attack and started sobbing. He tried to comfort me a bit, but I was inconsolable. I suspect he had a girlfriend he wanted to call goodnight, and I was a hole that fulfilled a need. And now I was useless. Anyway, he left. I spent the night crying, and the next day looking up exit bags. This was a few days before New Year's Day. I only have family left in the area and didn't have any plans for New Year's Eve. My brother had brought up going to the city to see the fireworks. I asked him about it a few hours before midnight. He said he's going with friends. I spent the night alone. Couple days later he was showing me pictures on his phone to show how nice his phone camera is. I happened to notice he actually went with our sister. My sister doesn't like me, so I wasn't invited, I guess. It hurts to be so unwanted. I'm not going to get a grave and my body is probably going to be thrown in trash when I'm dead. But if I did, my headstone would say no one's favorite. So this is a snapshot of the mind of someone on the other side. It's pretty ugly. I met this girl when I was out one night. She was nice, seemed normal. Went to her house and there was pictures of me around her mirror. Do we need to explain how a mirror works? That's funny. They were on the mirror, not in. Girl I had seen for 2 dates had her best friend SMS me anonymously claiming we met in a bar the night before and offering to come over to my place. I rarely went to bars as I work night shift at the time, so I knew I hadn't met anyone at a bar. Eventually, after probing and pushing, I got the girl to confess. She said she was just testing to make sure I was trustworthy. Didn't see her again. I had some female friends who've done that. I'm a woman too. I was always like, really girl? You are that insecure? Stop doing this creepy BS. But the saddest part of this, I mean for them, this isn't an excuse at all, is that they were doing this in fear of getting cheated on or manipulated again by jerks. And they happened to turn into the same kind of jerks. Childish. My ex to a T. Then I caught her cheating. Was like a light bulb. Oh, now it makes sense why you were always paranoid. Met a girl at a party. We flirted. Then we ended up in my bedroom. This was in my apartment. Heavy makeout. I suggest having sex. She declines. Heavier making out. Basically including anything that's not intercourse. I suggest having sex again. She declines. Fair enough. We stopped the making out and planned to see each other again. The day we were supposed to meet, she stood me up. I had cooked and it was already time to meet. She told me that she doesn't want to see me again because I wasn't pushy enough. She liked men who were less soft and gentle. She basically told me that when she said no, I shouldn't have listened. Dodged a bullet there. Yes, I did. I fell asleep sitting next to one of my friends on the way home from a school field trip in 12th grade. I woke up to her using my hand to play with herself. As I began to regain consciousness, she threw my hand at me and made a huge scene about it. I never talked to her about it. It bothers me to this day. Definitely top 3. That's not creepy, that's assault. I'm sorry this happened to you. I was probably 9. It was after church service, and there's this new lady there who took a liking to me. She was the new wife of the minister. We were outside waiting for the grown-ups to come out. I think they were having a meeting inside, and this new lady took me to a bench nearby. We sat, asked me lots of questions. Then she put my head on her lap, stroked my hair, while humming a lullaby, like I'm a baby. It felt really uncomfortable, and I really wanted to escape, but I was a shy little boy, and didn't want to offend her or something. Saw my sister from afar snickering at us. It went on for like 30 minutes, but felt like hours. I was dying with cringe inside. Very strange. Makes me think she had a son a similar age who died or something. Makes me think she's a predator. I've told this before. Little after I turned 21, I was at the bar with some friends. Shooting pool, enjoying a drink. This group of rough looking 45+ YR women come in. They slowly make their way over to the same side of the bar. We keep minding our business, having fun. I'm standing at the end of the table when I feel a hand slide down the back of my pants and boxers and grab my ass. Then she screeched out loud, "Boy, your mama raised you right." Then walks back to her friends all proud. The bartender kicked them out shortly after. My buddies were cool. They don't give me crap about it. We were all just like, WTF. I've never groped some random person like that. I'm sorry to all the women who get groped like that. It completely catches you off guard. It's meant to be a compliment, but just makes you feel used and revolting. It's not meant to be a compliment. It's just sexual assault, no matter what is between the legs of the perp and victim. Cut off all of her pubes. Put them in between layers of scotch tape. crammed them in an envelope with a pair of her used panties and put the envelope under my windshield wiper. There was a note. Read something like, "I know we can't be together, but now you'll always remember me." She was right. Oh frick dude. You just gave me a PTSD flashback. A girl did this to me before. What the actual crap? When I was like 17. I had it completely blocked from my memory. It just came flooding back. The cut off pubes with scotch tape. I don't wanna remember this. Did you know the same girl? Woman I was engaged to was doing all the prep for the wedding. This was in her country and I didn't understand the language all that well, so I was a bit limited on how much I could help her out other than helping to cut the invites out etc. She was a very hot-tempered person as she was, but as much as I asked her what tasks I could help out with, she just refused to involve me in anything at all, and then complain that I wasn't helping enough. She argued and argued with me about how I didn't care despite my efforts to be involved in all the prep. It was all very manipulative. Eventually she actually pulled a knife out at me. I slapped it off her wrist and she stormed off. When she left for work the next day I packed my bags, took a taxi to the airport and noped out of there. Jesus, she was that hot? It really doesn't matter if she shot that far past the Vicky Mendoza line. Unless Op was suicidal and this was the best death by snoo possible. Really wasted chick asked me to dance and proceeded to keep trying to pull my peen out. Like, forcefully. When it finally resisted enough, she called me a nerd and stormed off. What? You don't like being sexually assaulted? Frickin' idiot. I mean she'd know. She has the social skills of a 4chaner. My one and only Tinder date. Turned out she had signed her divorce papers that day. On the date she laid out her 1-year plan for us to date and get married. Let her know I wasn't interested in a second date. She thanked me for my opinion and declined not having a second date. Very luckily I hadn't been able to meet her at my house at the start of the date like she'd suggested, and we had to meet someplace neutral. I don't like to think what would have happened if she'd known where I lived. Considering that I'm not attractive or rich or otherwise someone women are usually interested in, this was a very weird situation. It was just a hi, I don't know anything about you, but we are going to be married by the end of the year. No, your opinion isn't relevant. Let her know I wasn't interested in a second date. She thanked me for my opinion and declined not having a second date. I lolled. She wasn't ready to turn her key. I dumped my ex about 9 years ago and she pulled up outside my back door and held the horn down blocking the road for literally 30 minutes straight. I got in the shower and left via the front door and went to a friend's party. She could have been there for hours because she was still going when I left. Legend has it her spirit is still there honking. Don't date geese. Me and a friend, both about 12 at the time, had a car with 3 women and pull up and try to get us to go with them for a good time. The woman who got out the car was flashing her tits and rubbing herself. It was just surreal. We both just noped the frick out. I'll never forget the girl in the backseat flashing her tits as they drove off. Looking back it feels more sinister than it did at the time. For the second time in this thread I will say, if y'all had been girls and there had been men, it would have been very obvious that the police needed to be called. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's freaking scary that some adults try to force sexuality on children. Bruh, police should have gotten involved, no matter the gender. Not just because the ones in the car were men and the kids were girls. My ex was bisexual, and at a party she tried making moves on my younger sister, who was only 15 at the time. Ex was 17, and touching her without permission. I got angry and told her to stop, and so the party ended soon after that. A week later not only did she not apologize, she tried to organize a meetup involving both me and my sister along with a few friends. So I told her I don't want her near me or my sister again. This made her so angry she called me on the phone and told me she had a knife and if I keep acting this way she'll use it. She also said she was on the way to my house right now. I was freaking the frick out at this point, but I was hoping she was just bluffing. However, sure enough 20 minutes later she arrived right outside my door. I texted her saying I wasn't going to let her in, but she kept ringing the doorbell constantly. I texted her again and again to go away before eventually saying after a few minutes that I would call the cops if she didn't leave right now. This finally got her to leave. Luckily, I haven't seen her since. For future reference, if somebody tells you they have a knife, they are going to use it, and they are on their way to your house, you should be calling the police already. There's no need to wait until they arrive, and there's no need to worry about whether it's true or not. Yeah, I guess I probably should have just done that. At the time I felt like I had to man up, and that calling the police right away would have made me look stupid or weak. I realize now how stupid that is. Wearing my university sport jacket when I went to grab a fast food order. Some woman I've never seen before shouted hi and waved at me like we were best friends. Gave an awkward confused wave back and left with my food. A couple hours later I get a friend request on Facebook from someone I recognized as her. Best guess is she saw my jacket and stalked the sport roster to find my name and added me from that. Got blocked real quick. That or on a first date she asked, if you were going to kill me, how would you do it? I know how I would kill you. Then proceeded to tell me her plan on how she would kill me and get away with it. She may not have been thinking about killing you. She may be a lonely serial killer looking for a partner in crime. This could be true, but I don't know if that's any better lol. I had a stalker in college. I worked at a coffee shop. This lady would come in every day and order a coffee. Every single day. She was so dedicated to stalking me. She would even go in on my days off and order coffee. I would always be like, hey Rachel, I'm not into you. And she would always respond, I'm just ordering coffee you creep. But we know what she was really saying. No, but seriously, in my 20s slept with a girl as a one night stand. We did kind of hang out after as she was a cool person. But one day she asked where I was, and I said I was working, and she said, no you are not, I saw you on the train. And I said I know, I took the train into work, and she lit my car on fire. That escalated quickly. Keep in mind I'm only a junior in high school. I was about in 7th or 8th grade, and I was at a New Year's party at my grandparents' house with all of their friends. You can tell I'm a party animal, spending my New Year's with 60 and 70-year-olds, and one of their friends, who I'd known for a while, continued touching me and grabbing me in my waist and thigh region. She would sneak it in, like under the table, or walking past each other, or whatever. I totally understand the stereotypical grandma cheek pinch, or whatever, but this was something else. After squeezing my butt with both hands, I had enough and said something to her. The rest of the night was super awkward, but the worst part was my grandma was defending her and downplaying the whole situation. It wasn't until I told my mom the next day, and she lost her crap on my grandma, that she finally admitted she was wrong, and I haven't seen her since. Gross and crappy that some of these stories are just straight up sexual assault. When I was 17, eating a slice of pizza in a pizzeria in New York, I was sitting facing the glass looking out to the street. Time was around 7 PM. It was getting dark. I'll never forget this 50-something-year-old lady who was walking on the sidewalk, saw me eating, slowed down, stared straight at me with the most seductive grin, and then winked, then continued on walking. Until that point in my life I had never felt so many emotions at once. I was turned on, weirded out, intrigued, scared. This was a day I will never forget. She had black hair and was pretty hot. She winked at her own reflection on the window. If it's darker on one side, there isn't a reflection. You just see the inside room.